Very important. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Studio City Neighborhood Council Public Safety Committee meeting for August 25th, 2022. We are starting the meeting at 7:02. Let's call the roll. Jeff Hartwick here. Alexa Steinberg, I know she may attend late, so she's not here right now.
According to environmentaldefense.ca.
I had to shut off my Alexa on the triggered when I said Alexa's voice. Patty Kirby, are you here?
Sorry, I am here.
Patty Kirby's here. Jerry Lewis
I'm here.
and Scott Mandel, board member and president ex officio. Are you here?
Present.
We have a quorum. I submitted the July minutes. I trust everyone has read them. Are there any objections? Without objection, they are approved. Chair update. I just want to say it was good seeing everyone over at the National Night Out a few weeks ago. It was really a good event up in North Hollywood. We got to meet many of our officers who patrol the area, including Sean Smith. And it was nice to chat with everyone. I know Sherry was there, Patty was there, Scott was there, and a good time was had by all. So it was a great event. We have another event of a different sort this Saturday. It's an NTP pop-up drill. I'll let Patty talk about it more, but it's Saturday, 4:30 to 7:30. I believe it's at CBS Radford, correct?
Yeah, it's now called Radford Studios, not CBS. So just so you know.
Radford Studios. All
yeah.
right.
Yeah, so what it is, the neighborhood council gave us allowed us the grant for $5,000 to purchase supplies for emergency kits and radios, etc. So we have those in place and we're going to utilize them at this pop-up drill on Saturday and learn how to use the radios. 4 teams will go out and be deployed into the neighborhood and that will along with the staging area, that the teams will deploy out and do damage assessment as if a major earthquake has happened and report back through the radios, and we'll test all our equipment, get all our supplies organized, and be ready for the big one. So we really would like to have a lot of community members from Studio City. We do have other people coming from all around Los Angeles. But I really, the focus is trying to get the Studio City folks to come. And it is quite interesting. So it's a very educational and worthwhile time to spend to register. So please consider doing that. Any questions?
No, thank you, Patty. Thank you for that. The last thing I'll say is the motions that were passed at last month's meeting, they went to the board, but unfortunately our board it was a marathon meeting. We didn't get a chance to get back to the public safety motions. So we're trying to get a special board meeting for next week to address the motions that weren't addressed at the last board meeting. So hopefully they will be looked at by the board this coming week. Let's go to agenda item number 4, public comments and possible clarification on non-agenda items within the committee's jurisdiction. 1 minute per speaker, 10 minutes max each agenda item. If you are accessing the meeting by phone, please use *9 to raise a hand and *6 to unmute. Is there any public comment? I see a hand from Mr. Goat. Go ahead.
Damn. Police snitch. Prove it. All right. Holy crap. Any questions, dummy? Nope, nope. Yeah. Guess I have to turn my radio down. Yes, cop lingo. See, I'm monitoring. So, thank you for violating the Brown Act several times. And I'm surprised Mr. Mandela's here, the owner of this channel, and the neighborhood prosecutor didn't stand in and tell the chair that you were supposed to take public comment before you approved the minutes. And my virtual hook was raised the whole time, and you just went right over and denied my right under the Brown Act. And the reason you do it is very clear, isn't it? It's because you guys are engaging systemically within this body to violate or coerce my right as an animal to speak, to engage in what we call a protected activity. And it's good that the neighborhood prosecutor's here today, because I believe somebody by the name of Glenn Bailey the other night, after a meeting was over, was doxing.
That's time. Wrap it up.
Well, doxing people to retaliate against their speech at these meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Goat.
That was
Is there-
2 minutes, human. Yes.
Is there any other public comments? Seeing none, let's move on to agenda item number 5, updates from LAPD Senior Lead Officer Sean Smith. I reached out to Mr. Smith. He may attend tonight, not sure if he will or not. So we will move on to item number 6. There we go. I muted someone out there. Comments by any other public officials, LAPD, LASD, city attorney, neighborhood prosecutor, council, elected appointed officials, etc. Up to 10 minutes extendable by the chair. Looks like we have Andy Solomon, who is our neighborhood prosecutor. Let me go ahead and unmute you.
Thanks. Hi.
Go ahead. Hi. Good evening.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andy Solomon. I'm from the City Attorney's Office. I'm the neighborhood prosecutor for LAPD Van Nuys area. The way we divide the neighborhood prosecutor is by LAPD area. As you know, Studio City covers 2 LAPD areas. We've got North Hollywood and Van Nuys division. So I'm on the Van Nuys side, but I work with my counterpart all the time on the North Hollywood side. I was gonna say the New York side. We don't extend that far. So I generally deal with chronic issues, issues that are usually not solvable by typical government intervention. I'm here to try as much as I can to cut the red tape and deal with the community's biggest issues and try to coordinate an effort with all entities that I can find, not only in my office, but also in the city, sometimes the state, sometimes the feds, and most importantly, community help actually is a big deal. I don't know if you have any questions for me specifically. I know that the Park Motel is a big sore in the community. I can't share too much, but I do want to tell you guys we're working on it. It's not slipped through the cracks. Actually, we're making progress on it. I don't know how much I can share because it's another attorney's work too, and I don't want to kind of step on his toes. But I can tell you that it's being worked on by another attorney who is specialized in these kinds of situations. And he's assisted me in Van Nuys area quite a few times. And he will, he's pretty serious about this and trying to find a resolution as soon as possible. I also do follow all the Instagrams we all follow. So I see a lot of the pictures and the videos and all that when they pop up. And I personally am disturbed by the things that I'm seeing in this community from the Park Motel. I've made contact with the operator. I've made contact with the owners of the property, and this is very recent actually. And I don't know if they're going to make the changes that were recommended by myself and LAPD, my office and LAPD. But I will say that we were pretty clear about the things that we expect to see going forward. And if I am hopeful, but I just don't know. I'm not in control of other people. So I don't know if it's the time to take some questions from the council or.
Yeah, if you won't mind, let's go ahead and field some questions from the public. If the public has any questions for our neighborhood prosecutor, go ahead and raise your hand. And then we'll go to committee questioning. Mr. Goat, go ahead.
Yes, and I know my colleague isn't going to like this, but I think you've done a very good job a few years ago of filing those fake gun charges against that attorney. I'm very impressed with your work. And the reason I say that is if you can get away with that and not get indicted, surely you can get this hotel little problem up by just filing a whole bunch of charges like you did against that lawyer back in 2017. Oh, excuse me. Yes, 2017. That resulted in an infraction, misdemeanor. Yes. So if you can do that against a law-abiding citizen, and he went to the FBI and they didn't do shit, then surely this hotel can be an easy pickings. Just get in there and do what the prosecutor said. Quote, I will keep filing charges against you until you plead to something. And that's an actual quote. You could go get the transcript. Yes, it was over in Van Nuys. And Scott knows all about it. And later on, you have a beer and talk about it. So just get in there and file whatever you can. As you know, you can indict a ham sandwich. And you just need to get on this and stop pussyfooting around because Paul Krikorian gets campaign donations from these violators, so I hear.
Thank you, Mr. Puppet. Your time is up.
Motivate these people to do good.
I
I believe in the Lord.
I didn't really hear a question. I don't know anything about that case. I wasn't in Van Nuys at that time. Sorry.
Sherry, go ahead.
Scott will tell you.
Okay. Hi, I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. The first one is I know that one of our senior lead officers talked to us at our last CPAD meeting about the squatter homes and that we should be contacting the city attorney's office for any issues like that. I know that there's been some in the North Hollywood area. I don't know if we've had any in Studio City, but I know that there's a process that if somebody dies and they don't have a will and it has to go through probate and blah, 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 and people come in and is it a hard hassle to get them out once that they're squatters when there's no owner?
The general, in my experience, the general theory is that it's better to defend when we still have the property empty than to try to remove people, especially if the owner has passed or it cannot be contacted. The reason behind that is because if you think about it, how do we know as law enforcement, how do we know who the owner has welcomed into their home? We need someone who is the lawful holder or possessor of that land, whether it's a tenant or the owner, to tell us, hey, these people are not welcome here. And when we can't locate that person, it gets very hard for LAPD to go in there and figure it out. So it's best to notify the SLOs. The SLOs are great at this. They get on top of it quickly. If someone in your community has passed or has moved out and left the home empty, contact the SLOs and tell them, hey, this is an empty property. It's potentially going to be subject to a lot of squatters because it's just the reality of today. And the SLOs can get a trespass letter or other kinds of authorization signed ahead of time so that we can deal with it before it's too late. And it's not too late, but it's before it's more difficult when it's been taken over by squatters. That's a great question.
Yeah. The other thing too, I was just curious. I know that there's a lot of city ordinances that we have on the books, but they're not being enforced. Do you have any idea when they will start being enforced, like no camping on the streets, the tents have to come down, at a certain time in the morning and you can sleep overnight, the littering, the health issues and stuff like that. I mean, it's bad. So I know that the city, the mayor just says, no, we're not going to do this. And the officers can't even arrest anybody being drinking in public. And that is against the city ordinances too. So when can we look forward to having them come back so they can be enforced?
That is, I don't know about the drunken public or other like littering. I don't know if those are not being enforced. It is up to officer discretion. Sometimes they just tell someone, hey, knock it off. And that person stops instead of just taking them to jail or writing them a ticket. However, I will say that there are many laws that you've, like examples you've given, for example, the tent laws and all that. Those were, there was a moratorium put in place on those, not a moratorium, but like a hold in the sense, essentially put on place where during COVID, where officers couldn't enforce that. Those kinds of things, those decisions are not made by my office. Those decisions are made by the city council, and it's not even per district. It's like a unanimous decision. So we're not unanimous. I'm sorry. It's a full council decision. And I don't know if it was unanimous at the time, but those are questions for the council office. And you guys are generally, all of you are in council district 2, is that correct? No,
We're in CD2 and CD4.
4. Okay. So those are both very open. I work with them all the time. Both of them are very open to the community feedback. So I would let them know, reach out to your field deputy and ask them, hey, what's the deal on this? And then you could follow up with the slows, because those are usually the most up to date. The senior leads should be up to date.
Is there any, are there any questions from the committee members? I have one question. Could you walk us through the anatomy of a ticket, let's say, or a citation for, let's say, possession of drugs or paraphernalia, or let's say, let me look at my list here, public intoxication, generally
Sure.
quality of life crimes? What happens if, let's say, one of our LAPD officers cites someone for one of these basic quality of life crimes? What happens next?
Sure. So the quality of life crimes, they go from infractions all the way up to usually misdemeanors. The difference is in infractions like speeding, you can't go to jail for it. A misdemeanor, you can go to jail for it. It's more sophisticated, it's more serious, right? And then the last of the crimes is the highest is felonies, which we know, like murder and all those kinds of things. Misdemeanors are generally going to be either arrested or cited. So the officer can decide what to do in the moment where they're giving the citation, they're making the arrest. That could be, they decide that this person needs to go to jail, whether it's a dangerous crime or they're not going to show up in court, or we don't know where to get them in court, how to get them in court, or they just have the person sign a ticket like we do if we're pulled over for speeding, which is not admission of guilt, but I promise that I'll come to court that day. The officer then takes that ticket, or if it's an arrest, the police report, or sometimes they add a report to a ticket and they send it over to someone from our office. The prosecutors will then review it. So if I get a filing, I'll review it. I'll review the report. I'll review everything I have at the time and determine whether or not it's a good charge to file. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is. If it is a good charge to file, then I file it, try to land it on the day that the person promised to appear. Then I appear with them in court and they show up, and that's an arraignment. So they're here, they're in front of a judge. It's a hearing where the judge asks them, are you guilty or are you not guilty? If they say I'm guilty or no contest, then they're admitting they're going to get convicted. And it's usually for a deal that we offer them, which is a reduced sentence. If they say I'm not guilty, then it's totally their right. They're challenging the case, and then the prosecutor has to prove it in court. We have multiple court dates leading up to a trial. And in those court dates, we're essentially confirming that everyone has all the evidence, all sides are on the same page as to what's going to happen next, and all offers or attempts to negotiate have been exhausted. And at that point, we call on a jury, we do the trial, and the jury decides if the person's guilty or not.
Thank you for that. And another question I had was, what percentage of citations issued by officers are kicked back by your office? Do you have a rough estimate?
Zero idea. I have zero idea. I'm so sorry.
Is it more than half or 90%, or you can't give me a ballpark of how many tickets or citations are rejected by the prosecutor's office?
I have no idea. I never look at that. I never was told any kind of stat or anything like that. I'm sorry, I don't know that.
And to your knowledge, they're not kept by the city attorney's office? I guess rejected cases like that?
I don't understand that last question.
If a case is rejected by your office,
Yes.
are there stats about numbers of rejections kept by the city attorney's office that you're aware of?
I don't know, but I'm sure there's some sort of way to track it if somebody had to.
Okay,
I have no idea though. I'm sorry.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, Andy.
It's
My question is, if I'm understanding this right, the neighborhood prosecutor will take requests directly from the public, even if the LAPD or council office hasn't been involved. So if that's true or not, can you just run through the instances where members of the public will contact the neighborhood prosecutor rather than, or in addition to, their SLO or the council office? I assume you take referrals from the council office and of course from the LAPD, but you also will deal directly with members of the public, if I'm not mistaken. If you can just explain that a little bit, please.
Absolutely. So I'm just another point of contact for you guys, for your government. I like to be clear that even if it's not my direct job, I will try to direct you to the person who is responsible for your issue. So and that goes for all the neighborhood prosecutors. I know the neighborhood prosecutor in North Hollywood very well, and he does the same. We actually refer things back and forth because of our border. So anyone can email me, and I'll give you my email at the end of this. Somebody remind me, please. But it's essentially my name with a period between the first and last name at lacity.org. And you can just email me and tell me, hey, I'm concerned about this issue. Any public safety issue is under my purview. If there's an issue that you're not sure who to go to, feel free to reach out to me and I'll direct you to the people who can help. Sometimes it's not a government issue, but that's okay to ask. I mean, and then I'll still tell you where we land. But the best way is just to email me, and I'm pretty open. I mean, you can email me about almost anything as long as it's relevant to what I can do. Then I'll try to help you. And if it's not what I do, again, I will just direct you to the right person, and that's something our office is very big on. So feel free to reach out.
And do you have any updates for us about party houses? From time to time, I get people complaining about a certain house where they're having these massive parties up in the hills. The neighbors have been complaining about those sorts of things. Can you give us any update about whether or not that's on the wane in Studio City, and also the length of time it takes to really get rid of a party house? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, party houses are tough. They're a little bit of a cat and mouse. Here's what happens. The officers have to catch a misdemeanor, given there are some exceptions, but in a party house, it's not. The officers have to catch the violation themselves. And what ends up happening is a party house, I know it's quite a nuisance, especially for the neighbors. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, when LAPD receives a party house call, it gets ranked lower in priority for the patrol officers to get there than an emergency or something that's a little more high level where they have to respond. So this is the kind of thing, and I've had a lot of party houses. I've had a good share of those during COVID. A lot of people were doing that, and it's been a cat and mouse game. My issue has been that police will start responding, start heading there right when they get the call, and then they'll get another call that's higher priority. So they turn around and they go to that, and then they get caught up in this situation for like 45 minutes, an hour, and then they start going back, and then they get another call. And it's like insane, but it's just they get reprioritized constantly, and that's dispatch. Think of it like they have a map, they know which cars go where, and they're just constantly moving the pieces on the chessboard to respond to emergencies as fast as possible. By the time the officers get there, the party's over, neighbors are upset, or officers get there, the party isn't as loud as it was when someone has called. The officer will make the discretion, choice to say, I'm going to warn them. It's not as loud. I know there's a party. I believe the people who called, but I didn't see it. The best thing I could do is warn them, and they'll warn the person, and the person gets away with it. The thing that has helped was we started picking up patterns of which houses are doing the parties over and over again. And well, two things have really helped. That step number one was we picked up a pattern. And so when it got to the point of like, this is a third party at this house, I know I can't tell officers what to do, but they decided they have used up all their discretion in terms of warnings, and it was time to make citations. And they're able to cite the owner of the house even if they don't see the person there, which is very interesting. But we have something called ACE citations. So it's a different track than a typical misdemeanor, but the penalties are not jail, but they are money. And that's essentially what stings these party houses because they're making money. So that's been helpful if the officers can get there and see the violation, which is great. And that goes in a different track. It doesn't go to us directly, but the senior leads know how to do that, and they train their officers on how to do those. The second thing that has been very helpful, it's thwarted two parties in Van Nuys area, is that the neighbors see the telltale signs of like a party is going to happen, like a major rager is going to happen this weekend. Like they see like a stage coming in, they see huge speakers coming into the house, they see like lights, and they're like, what is going on? So they tell us. The senior lead usually, sometimes it could be the neighborhood prosecutor, then reach out to the owner of the house and say, what's going on this weekend? And we have a pretty frank discussion about what's allowed and what's not. And 2 times that's happened where the owner had no idea and was renting the house on Airbnb or something else, and they shut that thing down fast. So, and I think a 3rd time it happened where they just kept it down, or they figured they don't want to violate any laws, they don't want trouble, and there were no complaints. And so it was fine. But we talked to them ahead of time about what are the rules, what are you expecting to do here, and what we expect for the neighbors. You can't just rent the house and cause have a full-on concert without telling anybody. So if you see it, let us know. Let your neighborhood prosecutor know. Let the senior lead know. Usually the senior lead will go out there and be like, what is all this? And get the conversation going.
Great, thank you for that explanation and update. Let's see, any other committee comment? I see one person who has his hand up. Let's go ahead and open it up to public comments. If there's one individual who has his hand up. Go ahead, Mr. Goat.
Yes, and it's a hoof, sir. I don't have hands. So what did we learn here today? Well, we learned that the next city attorney that's coming in, Faisal Gill, wants to phase out your neighborhood prosecutor program. He doesn't like it. He thinks it's a waste of time. And what we've heard tonight is that while you're sitting here, you could have been handling that hotel, because it's very simple how to do it. Goat Puppet told you how they took an honest, law-abiding citizen and fabricated gun charges against him until he pled guilty to trespassing. He already told you how to do it. He's seen it firsthand. But you don't want to do your job when you have a real case. See, that's the problem here, Jeff. And this is the problem that we have. And why this neighborhood council and this neighborhood prosecutor is not working. And as far as the statistics of your rejected cases, of course you have those statistics. They're on the 8th floor, 200 North Main Street. The FBI raided you, and they have the drives. Well, that's back in 2017 and 2019, but we can get an idea of just how many times a misdemeanor and an infraction got referred and rejected.
It's time, Mr. Goat.
See, well, you should give me more time. I'll tell you how they do more tricks. I'd like to hear it. No, not you.
I don't know if that, I didn't hear a question, so.
Yeah,
any questions?
that's all I have. Is there any other commentary or questions from the committee members anymore? Well, thank you very much for being here tonight, Mr. Solomon. I appreciate your assistance in keeping us all safe out here. Keep up the good work with the party houses and abandoned properties and everything else. And thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. And if you ever need to reach me, anyone, andy.solomon@lacity.org. It's spelled, I don't know if it's mirrored, but for me, it's on this side. Maybe for you guys, it's on this side. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right then. Agenda item number 7, updates from the North Hollywood LAPD Community Police Advisory Board, including any updates from regarding the August 27, 2022 Studio City pop-up drill. Patty's covered that, but Sherry, in case you have anything else to add, please let us know. Go ahead.
Yes, I can talk to you about a couple of meetings that we've had. First of all, thank you so much for participating in National Night Out. Found out that we served over 400 hot dogs, gave out 400 hot dogs. We had a fairly good crowd. We're planning on having a debriefing meeting. I already reached out to Brandon to figure out what day would be good. And now I'm waiting to hear from our sergeants to see what would fit in their schedule, and we'll kind of go from there and see what everybody thought, and if we want to do this combined event again next year and go from there. Met with OVB Valley Bureau with Deputy Chief Hamilton and all the other CPAB co-chairs about a week and a half ago, and we were talking about a lot of different issues. One of the things that we were talking about is the campers, the motorhome issue, and how it's really a very perplexing issue that when a camper is taken, it has to be stored somewhere. And then from there, it gets moved to a dismantling facility where they can take it apart. But also the hazmat team has to come in and take care of that part of it too. So the issue is finding a place to store them, because people don't want these, parking lots filled with the motorhomes in their neighborhood. So they're trying to locate areas. So that's one of the problems. So it's not moving as fast as they can. And also to that still fall under the Department of Transportation. They are the ones that are coming in and towing the motorhomes. Has nothing to do with the police department. They're usually there for security for the DOT people. Let's see. Right now, we've got about 960-200 officers in the LAPD. We are down from 10,000, so that's almost 800 officers we've lost in the past 2 years. So it limits the activities that our department's been able to do. You figure you get about 25 to 35 new recruits going through the academy, and if all of them graduate, that's wonderful, but that's not how it always works out. There's quite a few that drop out. But you've also, on the other side, you've got 35 to 40 officers that are retiring or leaving the department, going to other departments. So we're always catching up. We're short every time this happens. And let's see, what else is saying? Oh, I know, I think last month you asked about the shortage and what you guys can do and everything like that. I haven't got a flyer yet, but I know that it's set for October 8th at Valley College. OVB is having a city valley-wide recruitment fair, and it will be for sworn and civilian employees. If they want to work inside the station, they want to be, a dispatch operator, work in the jails, whatever the civilian positions, as well as a sworn. It's probably going to be from, I think, probably about 8 o'clock in the morning till about 7 o'clock at night. They just secured the location, so there aren't too many details. But what's going to happen is that they will have different seminars, and there'll be people there to ask questions. A lot of times somebody will want to become a police officer, but they have a bunch of questions, and before they want to take the test, they want to get all those answers. So they'll have that availability. They also will be giving out tests right then and there. If somebody wants to come and be tested to see if they can, get into the system and their way to becoming a police officer. So it seems like it's going to be a really good event. So our captain says, if you know anybody that wants to be a police officer, let them know about this. Also to let him know. But he said that, the best way to figure out would be a good police officer, not just because somebody wants to be one, but if you made the call and that person showed up at your door to help you, if you feel comfortable and think that that person would be good, those are the kind of characteristics that you should look for in somebody, not because somebody down the street says, oh, I want to be a police officer, but you wouldn't want him to respond to one of your calls. The other thing is that, well, back to the deployment issue. I mean, it's bad. It really is bad. Right now, for this past deployment period, which is usually a month long, every month they have a new deployment period. So this past one, we've only had 93 officers at North Hollywood Division. Normally, on a good day, we'd be having 122 officers. So we're running about 70% below what we need. Our officers are working overtime. They're working hard. They answer between 800 and 1,000 calls per week in North Hollywood Division. And we're the busiest division in the whole valley, probably number 3 in the whole city. So our officers are running from call to call to call. And people complain, oh, the police never show up and whatever, but it's like briefly what was said before about communications. When you call into communications, you're reporting a crime or something like that. The communication operators have to make a decision of the priority, how serious it is that the call is. So they may be heading over to take your burglary report, and then a call comes out, there's an assault with a deadly weapon. So they've got to go do that, and they get pulled here and then they get pulled there, or they're in the middle of talking to you about a certain situation, and all of a sudden a call comes out and off they go. So it's like, oh, excuse me, you're running off to something else. But that's how it's been. So they're doing a damn good job for what little they've got. And hats off to them. I mean, I'm telling you, they're burned at both ends. And the captain tries to get them to sign for overtime, and a lot of them they can't do it, But hopefully by October, things should be let up a little bit. And our captain realizes and knows that our SLOs have been pulled out of what their jobs are to help train our new officers, because we're short on training officers. But Deputy Chief is trying to get those new training officers advertised so people can apply for them for the new recruits. So that should alleviate them. And the captain is putting our SLOs back onto their normal work now. But there are times when they will be pulled out of what they do normally in case of an emergency or something else comes up. But you should be able to contact, Sean a little bit more easy. He'd be doing more of his senior lead work now. It's been tough. There's also the Sears that was there on Laurel Canyon and Victory in that shopping center now. That's no longer Sears. Is going to become a new Target. So Target is in the process going through all the paperwork and building and safety. So we're going to have a Target over there. Then we had Kevin come from our Valley Traffic officer. He's the only one for the whole North Hollywood area. And Valley Bureau has been really pretty good, because last year we had 9 people that were killed in traffic accidents. So far this year we've had 2 traffic accident fatalities. And he said that in the North Hollywood area, we've had 0. So we've been lucky. Doesn't mean that we haven't had traffic accidents. I mean, we have them all the time, but at least nobody's been killed from them. He says there's a big problem with the pedestrians, and the pedestrians are usually the transients that are wandering out in the middle of traffic, wandering down the street, throwing things, at cars and stuff like that. So they know that it's a problem area, and they've been working on it. The area that affects us the most is around Colfax and Riverside. So other major areas are farther out in the North Hollywood Division. We don't have too much of that here. They are aware of it and they're working on it. As far as street takeovers, we do have a street racing task force, and that consists of 2 units and 1 motorcycle unit. So you can just 2 police cars and 1 motorcycle. You can see how effective they can be. they've partnered with the CHP. And they need more officers, obviously, to really be effective about it. But they ask that if people, hear about a takeover or a gathering of people, you see it happening, to contact them. And Sergeant McGee, I don't have his information right now. I can get it to you though. He's the one in charge of the street racing task force. They do use a lot of people calling in and talking about, oh yeah, I know there's going to be something happening Friday night over here and such. So they're ahead of it, and they can bring in other resources like the CHP and try to quelch it. I know it's a big problem throughout the city. We're not stuck with it here in the valley. I mean, you can hear about it on the news all the time about these street takeovers and bridge takeovers and all that. So it's a big problem, and they're trying to get a hold of it. Let me see. I think that's about it. Patty, did I miss anything? I think I caught everything that was said at the meeting that we can share.
Yep, everything was covered. Great job, Sherry.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Let's go to public comment. Mr. Goat, go ahead.
Yes. And I think that report was just a beautiful, rosy report that gives me such confidence in our city that our tax dollars are going to good use. Now, as you know, Sherry forgot to tell you that being that I'm a police snitch for tonight's purpose, I hear that there's 176 new recruits coming in, but there's over 388 retirements that will be going. So there'll be another net loss of 124 cops. And also, good news, Sherry forgot to tell you that North Hollywood is no longer the crime capital of the valley. The Topanga division is now #1 in futility and failure. Really? Yes. Yes, so believe me, North Hollywood division's been working hard. But yesterday, I had the privilege of going to Devonshire division. Yes, and they were very nice to me, yes. And
That's time, Mr. Puppet.
Well, they have better resources than North Hollywood. How come?
Any other public comment? Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Jeff. I was wondering, Sherry, if they mentioned at the meeting about the homicide, the LA River and the Laurel Canyon. Someone was killed there. And I believe the next day or a few hours later, another person was stabbed on Whitsett and the Greenway. And then another person was stabbed further west towards Coldwater Canyon, just above the Greenway. So it seems like there's a lot of action going on along the river these days. We haven't had I don't think we've had a homicide in Studio City in quite some time, unless I missed it.
Yeah, no, he didn't really talk too much about that. I mean, he did bring it up, and he said that we need to stay on top of the council person involved in that, because what he used some word, I can't remember what word it was. Their approach to dealing with the homeless situation is got to get a little bit stronger. They just can't be going about it the easy way. And they're out looking for those people, obviously, but they're hard to find. I mean, it's hard to find the transients once they do something like that. I don't know if any arrests have been made or not. But yeah, it's bad out there. And that's what a lot of the assault calls are, is homeless upon homeless. That's a big call for the assault with a deadly weapon charges. So
Yeah, what's interesting is the neighborhood council passed a request for action to basically bring more attention to the problems along the Greenway. And that was about a month ago. And we transmitted it to Nithya Raman's office. and, to deal with the graffiti, the trash, et cetera, and the problems inherent there with the persistent homeless. And, I don't know if apparently nothing has really been done because we've had continuing problems. So I know the neighborhood council has tried to reach out to our council member and to urge her to do something about it, be more proactive. But I guess things are not working out in that regard.
No, nope, they're not. That's why, everybody needs to be, to stay on top of them and to continue that maybe they'll come around and finally do something. I know it's a big problem. And I know that around Compton and, oh God, can't remember the name of the other street. It was Jonathan Ojeda in the Toluca Lake area talked about it, where they've done some cleanups, so they go in there and they'll do a cleanup. And as soon as they're finished cleaning up, the homeless people come back and they'll go back in and do another cleanup. And the same thing happens again. I mean, they did a big cleanup around the red line and it was really clean. And we were out on our little patrol the other night and the tents are back. So they clean them up and the people come back. And the only times, they have to keep doing this and finally maybe the people will get tired of it, being told to move, that they're doing a cleanup, that they may just give up and go somewhere else. So it's a big issue. There isn't a simple solution to it. And all we can do is just, hold our elected officials accountable, to do something.
Thank you for that. Anything else, Sherry?
No, I think that's it.
Thank you for all you do. Thank you very much for keeping us updated. We will now turn to agenda item number 8. Let me see if I can pull this up on my screen. All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Agenda item number 8, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council supports Council File 22-0002-S101, Title AB 1740 Muratsuchi, AB 2407 O'Donnell, and SB 1087 Gonzalez, used catalytic converter sales. There has been a rash of automobile catalytic converter thefts throughout the city of Los Angeles. Criminals steal them for their precious metal content. Many residents of Studio City have been victims of these thefts, and replacement parts are expensive. Currently, there are 3 bills in the state legislature that address this problem. AB 1740 would require a core recycler accepting catalytic converters to maintain a written record that contains the year, make, and model number and requires the owner to enter into a transaction. AB 2407 would require a recycler to report information on the purchase and sale of catalytic converters to law enforcement and to obtain the thumbprint of sellers. And SB 1087 would require a traceable method of payment for these special parts and permit the purchase of converters only from specified sellers. Collectively, these bills will help stop this epidemic of thievery and prevent criminals from profiting from selling stolen converters. This motion is also to be submitted as a community impact statement, CIS to Council File 22-0002-S101. And let me stop sharing. Let's go to public comment on that. Go ahead, Mr. Goat. Oh, I'm sorry. I need a second for this motion.
You
I'll
got it.
second.
Scott beat you to it. Thank you, Scott, for that second. Mr. Goat, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you for fucking away my right to unmute my own mic. And as you can see from the picture, Brandon Marino definitely supports this motion. He's very concerned about it. It's got him twisted up in knots. Because I know a very nice lady had her catalytic converter stolen not once, but twice in beautiful South Northridge, if you can believe that. She's the vice president now of the neighborhood council. That's right, 2 times in her own garage. Some homeless criminal came underneath and cut out her catalytic converter. Now tell me on this call, would any of you do it? No. Who's doing it? Who the hell crawls under a car to steal a catalytic converter? Is this what our society is turning into? Holy shit. I suggest these people, we put a friendly amendment that these
That's
catalytic
time.
converter things go back to traditional crime.
Thank you, Mr. Goat, for that. Is there any committee comment? Seeing none, let's go to a vote. Patty Kirby,
Yes.
Jerry Lewis,
Yes.
thank you, Jerry. Scott Mandel,
Yes.
Jeff Harwick votes yes. The motion passes. Thank you for that. Let's move on to the next. Agenda item number 9, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, supports Council File 22-0797, title Illegal Dumping, Multi-Jurisdictional Locations, Los Angeles County, California Department of Transportation, Caltrans, Memorandum of Understanding, the City of Los Angeles Sanitation Department, I think it's called Lawson, not only collects residential waste, but also abandoned and illegally dumped trash. Waste items left outside of city jurisdiction, it should be present problems of coordination with county and state areas, which can result in lack of timely collection. This has been evident at local homeless encampments and near freeway on and off ramps. It therefore makes sense for the city to have Lawson report on 1, efforts to coordinate trash collection with Caltrans, and 2, the feasibility of entering into a memorandum of understanding, MOU, with Los Angeles County and Caltrans to facilitate illegal dumping removal. This motion is to be submitted as a community impact statement, CIS, to Council File 22-0797. And I'd just like to say, there's a huge problem. I think mention was made earlier about trash, illegal trash at homeless encampments and whatnot. And because I am on the homelessness committee, visiting many of the encampments in the area. One of the big problems is there may be trash on the city side that's dealt with, and then it may take several weeks if the trash spills over onto Caltrans property to deal with that, and then to the county jurisdictional areas. The encampment that was over by Moore Park and Oakwood School in that area near the wash, near the river, there was a huge jurisdictional issue with that. But what needed to be done was to have some coordination between the city, the county, and the state when there's a cleanup, that all 3 agencies are on board with their sanitation efforts to deal with this at the same time. And when I was at the park and ride cleanup, I noticed that many of the homeless individuals would toss bikes, bike parts, and other things over onto the Caltrans side. So when the county came in to clean up all the debris and used needles and refuse, many individuals just simply tossed it over the fence, It was only about 3 feet tall, and the city couldn't touch it. And then it took a while for Caltrans to deal with that situation. So I think this is kind of a no-brainer. I think these jurisdictions need to coordinate better with each other to get the job done. Let's go to public comment. Mr. Goat, go ahead.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. What's going on? My God, they actually came up with something productive on this committee. No, good Lord. You can't let them do that, Scott. It violates the charter of the SCNC. Yes, it's actually well written. My God, this is a trick, isn't it? None of you could have done this. No, let's see. Who did it? Maybe Peter did it. Maybe Michael. Somebody did it from the outside, yes. I'm afraid I have to say this, that I support the motion. No criticism? No, I can't find anything wrong with it. It's a trick, I know it.
Thank you for that, Mr. Puppet.
I think it's a trick.
Do we have any committee comment? I do need a second, though. Who wishes a second?
I'll second Patty.
Patty, thank you for that. Scott, go ahead.
I just want to echo everything Jeff said. I too personally witnessed what happened at all those locations and a few more. And I totally support this.
Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and vote then. Patty,
Yes,
Jerry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes,
and I will vote yes. The motion passes. Let's move on to the next motion. And I will ask for a second before I go to public comment. All right, agenda item number 10. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC supports Council File 22-0930, title Compton Avenue, Nevin Avenue, Metro Right-of-Way, Official Police Garage, OPG, Vehicle Towing and Storage Services, Excess Storage Lot Lease Agreement. Official Police Garages, OPGs, provide vehicle towing and storage services for 19 service areas located throughout the city of Los Angeles. OPGs provide space for the city, including the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, and the Department of Transportation, LA DOT, to impound vehicles to await release, transport, salvage, or disposal. Recently, these facilities have faced challenges relating to the storage of impounded vehicles, with several areas experiencing great service volume relative to capacity. If there is insufficient storage space, abandoned vehicles such as broken down RVs will be left on our streets and pose a safety hazard. To help alleviate this problem with capacity, the SCNC supports the acquisition of additional excess vehicle storage areas across the city. This includes the Metro right-of-way property located at Compton Avenue and Nevin Avenue, which has already been cleared by the Board of Police Commissioners. This motion is also to be submitted as a community impact statement, CIS, to Council File 22-0797. Do I have a second?
A
I'll
second.
second. Go ahead, Jerry.
All right, Jerry got it. Thank you for that, Jerry. And let's go to public comment on this. But before I go to public comment, I'd just like to say, I believe Sherry mentioned earlier that there is a problem with abandoned vehicles. And I recall several months ago, the board of the neighborhood council here, we dealt with a motion that dealt with exactly this sort of thing in terms of what to do about the abandoned RVs. And at I believe it was a Board of Police Commissioners meeting, one of the officers who testified before the board mentioned that there was a problem with capacity and that they couldn't tow away many of these abandoned RVs, which are disrupting the streets in many areas of our city because there just weren't enough areas to put these RVs in. So what this motion does is it supports the use of a metro right-of-way space to turn it into a parking space so they can park some of these abandoned and illegally left vehicles so they can get them off our streets. So that is that in a nutshell. Let's go to public comment. Go ahead, Mr. Goat.
That's why Brandon looks so strange. It's a trick. It's a trick. God, 2 in a row. My God, they're using my suggestions. They are. Yes. That's what I told them to do last year. Find a shithole and acquire the property and put RVs there. And they're going to do it? It's a trick, isn't it? Tell me, it can't be true. Is the city really going to get off their ass and do things that I suggest? If you keep doing that, this place will look like Santa Clarita in a couple of years. My Lord. But I will be very, very skeptical, and I will closely monitor this. I hope you're not lying to me. Goat Puppet fully supports the motion. I can't believe that. I know, but I have no choice. I have to go along with it, even though I know in my mind it must be a trick.
That's time, Mr. Puppet. Thank you. Any committee comment? Seeing none, let's move right along. Let's go ahead and go to a vote then. Patty, go ahead.
Yes,
Jerry?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
I vote yes. The motion passes. Let's go on to agenda item number 11. I will share the screen on that. So this is a letter of support for the LAPD. It's based on the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council. They did a letter of support at one of our recent meetings. Tess Taylor mentioned, I believe it was last month's meeting at our Public Safety Committee meeting. Tess Taylor mentioned they had done this and how the police really appreciate that. So I thought I would take her letter as a template and then use it so we can also praise the LAPD through our neighborhood council. So here's the draft letter regarding Studio City Neighborhood Council, support for Los Angeles Police Department. Dear Mayor Garcetti and Los Angeles City Council members, the board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, writes to declare its strong support for the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, and to request certain actions from you. The brave officers and diligent staff of the LAPD provide our community with something that is at times taken for granted, our safety and security. We thank you and our council members for restoring previous LAPD funding. We also support the $87 million operational increase in funding to the LAPD for the 2022-2023 fiscal year city budget of $11.8 billion. We request that you identify a way forward to achieve full staffing of the LAPD, which is significantly understaffed at this time, especially by national standards. Lack of adequate staffing results in fewer crimes investigated and the inability of the police to respond to criminal activity in a timely manner, which endangers us all. We request that you support the work of the LAPD to enhance, it should be, and enhance your public communications, acknowledging the important job the LAPD does and to build relationships with local communities. We declare our appreciation for LAPD Senior Lead Officer Sean Smith. He is a valuable and dedicated crime fighter whose extensive knowledge and awareness of our community's crime issues have contributed immensely to the safety and well-being of Studio City. We need more officers like Sean Smith in Los Angeles. We request that the city attorney support equal and full enforcement of all laws and ordinances, and that the city council oppose any politicized special ordinances and or policies that hinder or prevent the ability of the LAPD to enforce the law. Police enforcement duties should be predictable and consistent. There should not be a blanket policy of non-prosecution of misdemeanors and quality of life infractions. Non-prosecution will only encourage further law breaking. We request these actions from the city council because Studio City residents and stakeholders strongly believe that additional police support and resources are essential to help the LAPD and to keep our neighborhoods safe. Respectfully, Scott Mandel, President, Studio City Neighborhood Council. Do I have a second for this letter?
I'll second.
Thank you, Patty, for that. Let's go to public comment. Go ahead, Mr. Goat.
Yes, but doesn't our vice president, doesn't he want to sign a letter? After all, I believe you are violating the Brown Act by putting a budgetary matter of the LAPD and the budgetary matter of the city attorney's office, commingling it in the same motion. All of them on the city council supported you. I believe there are 3 criminals. Marquise Aristotson, yes. Rahman, yes. Bonnet, yes. Bonnet, the seat, yes. So we have a block of city council members that should not get credit for this. Only the ones that supported the funding, only. The ones that vote against it, they're the ones who should be diminished. Like Nithya Rahman, who won't enforce the anti-camping zones. Bonnet. And then later, and Sherry doesn't know this yet, December 1st, we're going to have 2 more Nithya Rahmans coming in. One in T.
That's time. Thank you, Mr. Goat. Sherry, go ahead.
Okay, I fully support that letter, and if possible, if it gets approved by the rest of the neighborhood council, if you could do possibly what Tess did and attend one of the police commission meetings and raise your hand and speak and read the letter so they hear about it too. They are hearing more from support from the police department versus all the negative stuff that these people come and yell on the police commission meeting. It's really important. And also to show your support with police officers, thank them every time you see them out there on the street. And just one other quick thing, it's off topic just a bit. When you have time, if I can read a community alert that I just received from Captain Mohammadi regarding the Kia cars in Hyundais. So that just came out. So when the time's appropriate, I'll read you that.
Thank you. Any other public comment? How about committee comment? Seeing none, let's go to a vote then. Patty Kirby, go ahead.
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
and I vote yes. The motion passes of the letter and support. Agenda item number 12, discussion regarding topics for future meetings. Before I go to that, I want to circle back to Sherry so she can share with us her update about the LAPD information about Kias and whatnot. Go ahead.
Sherry, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me
Hi,
now?
Sherry. Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, it's a community alert from the Commercial Crimes Division Task Force for the Regional Auto Theft Prevention from the Los Angeles Police Department. TikTok auto theft trend that's going on out there. 2010 to 2021 Kias and Hyundais, various makes and models. In 2021, Kia and Hyundai vehicles made up almost 13% of all vehicle thefts in the city of Los Angeles. In 2022, Kia and Hyundai account now for almost 20% of all vehicle thefts, 7% increase for these vehicles. The current TikTok, Kia, Hyundai social media challenge is comprising factor for the increase of vehicle thefts. The primary cause for the increase in vehicle thefts is that Kia and Hyundai vehicles produced between 2010 through 2021 are not equipped with an ignition immobilizer. Therefore, these vehicle ignitions can be compromised using a USB cable. It is recommended that the owners of these vehicles utilize a steering wheel locking device or aftermarket anti-theft system as an effective way to deter these thefts. Tips to minimize thefts is install a steering wheel locking device, install a battery disconnect switch, install a kill switch, which may require professional installation, install aftermarket anti-theft system, which may require professional installation, lock all windows and doors, park in a well-lit area, park in a secured location, install GPS tracking device. So this flyer just came out. He sent it to me, so we'll be posting it all over social media, but I just wanted to give you a heads up about the TikTok craze. I'm sure you've all heard about it, but if you know people with Kias and Hyundais, tell them that they need to be extra vigilant because this is happening. That's it.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you for that. I guess I have to go to public comment. So go ahead, Mr. Goat.
Yes, and right here, you can get this. Did you know you can get it for free? Yes, I know how to do it. But Scott won't let me talk more than a minute. Yes, so you'll have to find out. I have several of these. See that? Turn it around. Yes. Now, the second thing, that if you don't want a Hyundai or a Kia to be stolen, I have a suggestion. Uh-oh, you've been so nice. Buy American. Yes, because American cars are boring and they're less likely to be stolen. Like a Buick. Who the fuck's gonna steal a Buick? Good point. And your insurance is lower too. So again, that's what I do. I bring you solutions to your problems that you would never think about. And that's why Goat Puppet is here to help all of you. And I say things sometimes that, well, maybe
It's time. Thank you. All right, then. Any committee comments? Seeing none. Let's go to agenda item number 12. Discussion regarding potential topics for future meetings. Please let me know if you have any updates that need to go out to the community. Let me know if there are any potential motions that you would like to see on our agenda that may be suitable for the Public Safety Committee. Please provide me with that input. I would appreciate that. Let's go to public comment on that. Go ahead, Mr. Goat.
Yes, and future comments, of course, would be the long overdue apology of Brandon Marino. Now, I realize that as you see his picture, he's apparently suffering some form of duress, but that's because of his guilt. And we are here in the Jewish tradition of guilt trip, that he needs to apologize to the certain stakeholders he was talking about. You could be a part-time stakeholder. You don't have to live here 24/7. God knows I don't. Yes, that's how some of us keep our sanity. like me. I was in a pretty place yesterday. Today I was here all day and I got a little frustrated. So tomorrow I'm going to go with nice people where they have nice police officers to decompress. Yes, and finally, we would like to know that statistic. How many cases does the city attorney actually reject compared to the DA? That was a good idea by Jeff, sticking his little horns in there. Yes, we want to know.
That's time, Mr. Goat. Thank you. Any committee comment? Seeing none, let's go to agenda item number 13, closing comments. Just thank you to everyone for being here tonight. Everyone show up at the event on Saturday. I believe you can find further information at the SCNC website. So take a look at that. And that's all I have. Let's go ahead. Scott, do I have to open that up for public comment?
No, we're good. I'm
We're
clapping.
good? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Appreciate it. And we are adjourned at time 8:18. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Jeff, for a great
Thank you,
meeting.
Jeff.